always, I'm joined by my bud Dave.
Hello, y'all.
So Dave.
So Lou.
We're starting the show off this week a little different. And that's because I recently discovered a great video that I wanted to share with everyone.
Great is an understatement. And I remember you sent me this video a few weeks ago, and I only just watched it recently. So that's on me for waiting this long to see this magnificent video.
So as most of our listeners know, I usually add like samples and clips from things into the show. I've always liked it. I know you like it. It's a good reference when we're talking about something to kind of just cut to whatever we're talking about, whether it's commercials, clips from movies, things of that sort. And usually I pull them from YouTube. And, you know, everyone knows when you're searching on YouTube, you kind of end up in one of those, I forget what the word is, but I think it's like a YouTube hole or something.
Rabbit hole.
Rabbit hole. A YouTube rabbit hole. And you just start discovering shit you weren't even looking for.
That's how it goes.
So in our last episode, which was Fun Halloween Facts, if you haven't listened to it, go back and check it out. I was just looking for random clips because we did reference things, but we weren't really focusing on a specific, I guess, film, Halloween special, commercial, or anything. So I was just kind of pulling from things we were saying.
Right.
I came across a video titled Samhain, Crazy Anti-Halloween Preacher. Now, that's literally the title of this video on YouTube. It's from the user FGFM Info. That's the YouTube channel. It's not a big channel. Last I checked, I think he had maybe 25 subscribers. So this guy is not trying to be a big YouTube sensation, but this is the most popular video on his channel.
And for good reason.
And yes, and for good reason. Now, before you and I go into what exactly this video is, I'm going to play a few clips from it for the listeners.
Yes, I like that day! I get sacrifices in my day. Yes, that's right. My demons cheer me on! Blood sacrifices. Fresh Christian meat. And those Christians are dumb. They have Halloween parties in their churches in honor of me! I want your soul. I'm dispatching my warring demon right now. And I'm sending him to that youth pastor's house. In fact, his address is 1666 Dark Shadow Lane.
Now, Dave, after I sent you this video and you watched it, what were your initial thoughts?
Honestly, it's insane. It's just like this weird but not anti-Halloween video. I couldn't put, like, I don't know where they were trying to go with this. Like, it wasn't making me not want to celebrate Halloween.
If anything, it was making me want to love Halloween even more.
Exactly. It's a real special video.
So, from what I gather, and I tried to do a little research on this, but there was nothing online. I Googled like 10 different things. So, the video is obviously one of those like prayer hotline videos. I'm guessing, and I'm going to be perfectly honest, I'm not a religious person. I don't remember or even know what a prayer hotline was. Do you know?
Well, hotlines were a big thing in the 80s.
No, that I know. That I remember. Like Freddie had one, and Santa Claus had one.
Yeah, but I mean, so this is what I gather from this video. This was put out by a church in Chicago, to be specific, and this was their attempt at making an anti-Halloween video, but using the devil, who looks more like a Martian / insect than he does a devil, but
Yes.
that's besides the point because I was still into the look. And yeah, so it's just this very odd attempt, and I'll just say this: it's fucking wild. And again, with the hotlines, there was hotlines for everything. So I'm not surprised that there was probably this is what I think it is. I think if you called that number, it was probably just a church, and it was probably just come to mass, come to our gathering. That's probably what it was. If you want to get into like the Hell House things, it might have been a Hell House. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's definitely weird. Yeah, we just said weird at the same time.
Now, let's roll back a bit. You mentioned this guy looking like an insect and the devil combined.
And a Martian.
And a Martian. And you know what my description of him was? Sammy Davis Jr., Dave Chappelle, dressed up as Satan. So
he does look like Sammy Davis Jr. That's a good one.
Dude, that's literally what I saw. Sammy Davis Jr., Dave Chappelle combined, dressed as Satan. Now, let's describe his costume. He's wearing this glittery cape. I can't tell if the mustache is his or part of the costume. I was trying to figure it out. Keep in mind, I'm assuming this is from either the late 80s, early 90s. So it's not exactly HD.
This is the 80s for sure.
It has to be. It's either mid to late 80s. I even thought maybe early 90s. But again, not the best quality. So I couldn't really tell if his mustache was fake or not. He's wearing this headpiece that covers like most of his head with these giant ears and huge horns.
But the horns again, they look like antennas or like antlers or something for like an insect or that Martian. What's the Martian cartoon? Not Marvin the Martian, the other one.
I don't remember.
He's short and green, and he's got a little helmet, and he's got the little two little. I don't know his name, or I don't know what its name is.
Yeah.
But that's what it reminded me of, and I couldn't tell. Was this guy painted brown or red? It looked brown.
I think it was red, but again, it's obvious. It's ripped from a VHS, so the quality wasn't great.
I sent this to our buddy Elijah, and he knew what this was immediately. He goes, "Oh yeah," he goes, "I put it in a pre-show for when he does his analog Sundays in Kansas City." He's very well aware of this. I might have to pick his brain about it.
Yeah, and it's just weird how I've never come across it. Like I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about this video. Like I couldn't find much information on it, and just the way he puts down Christians in the like, you wouldn't think he's religious or believes in God because he uses words like dumb Christians celebrating Halloween, having Halloween parties in church, and like how he wants to sacrifice like Christians. My favorite line, hands down, is when he says fresh Christian meat. Like, I was like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? And then he continues to go on, like, threatening, like this youth pastor. It felt like he was threatening a specific guy. Like, he was singling some dude out.
It was like a turf with, it was like a church turf or something like that. It was some really, there's definitely, an ulterior thing going on here with this message, because it definitely seemed like it was targeted specifically at someone or something. There was one part where he's like really going, and then he stops and takes a breath, and it's fucking hilarious. He's like, and then he keeps going, and I'm just like, that's amazing.
And another thing that I loved about it was at one point I think he says he's gonna dispatch his demons to this youth pastor, and I'm assuming this address is not actually this youth pastor's address, because the address is 1666 Dark Shadow Lane.
Dark Shadow Lane.
And he's going to deliver a fucking Halloween curse. And then the ending is super awkward because he just stands there looking at the camera, staring into it, like fucking growling and shit, and then it just cuts.
Because he's just like statically staring at the camera, and they're just like, I guess they never told them they were going to cut, like they were going to wait that long to stop, so he's just doing it. And the other thing that, before he mentions that address, In my notes, I wrote, "The devil is going to take back Chicago, y'all." Because that's what he was saying. He's like, we're going to take Chicago back.
But
oh, man.
For a dude that fucking hates Halloween or thinks it's evil or the devil or whatever, he sure fucking knows how to put together a good spooky video, dude. Like,
that's what I'm saying. It's like very odd.
He's just sitting in like this fucking void. The little piano fucking beat in the back.
Yo, the music is really good. I wrote that down. I have that in my notes. How I really like the music because it's like it's like wobbly sounding and warped.
This is something you'd play at a Halloween party in the background because everything about this just reminds you of Halloween. It's obviously it's super nostalgic because it's from the 80s, but just how he thought this was a good idea. Like, this dude really thought dressing up as the devil, and he's really into this. He's fucking making noises and he fucking just laughs continuously, like all the
that's great
throughout the and I'm just like, he really thought this was like an anti-Halloween message. It's fucking hysterical, dude. It's fucking hysterical. It reminds me because there's another Halloween, like anti-Halloween video out there. I forget the name of it. I think it's like Pagan Halloween or something. And it's one of those like why Christians shouldn't celebrate Halloween. And again, and I have a feeling we're going to dive into it in a future episode. But again, when you watch this video, it just makes you love Halloween more. Like, I'm like, dude, for you guys hate Halloween. You're putting so much effort into showing why Halloween is so fucking good.
It's awesome.
Yeah. And it's just fucking hysterical. And I want the listeners, and I know we've been rambling on about this because, again, this was random. I just discovered it and wanted to talk about it on the show because I feel like no one's talking about it. But, like, go on YouTube and search this video. You will not regret it. Now, Dave, there was something you wanted to do before we go into our main topic on the air. And that was call the number that this guy's fucking hawking on the air. And you're gonna put it on speaker.
All right.
So let's.
All right, hold on. I'm gonna call this. I'm gonna call this number right now. I'm not gonna say it out loud, but let's see what happens. So I honestly have no idea what's gonna happen right now.
Let's see.
I'm looking at the number. Hold on.
The number's probably not activated anymore. It's probably.
It might not be.
Yeah.
It might be someone's fucking house. Who knows? But hold on. I gotta take one of the headphones out though, so I can hear. So hold on a second.
The number you have reached has been disconnected.
Damn.
No longer
Damn,
in
my
service.
dude is not activated anymore. That line's disconnected.
Man, I was even gonna ask. Like, I had a backup plan and everything in case somebody did answer the phone. I was gonna be like, so I guess this isn't a church in Chicago, and they'd be like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "Never mind." And then I should just be like, "You should look this video up. Your phone number's in it."
Yo, dude, it would have been great if it was the same dude. Imagine he fucking. And he still hates Halloween.
That was his house number?
It was the same dude. And imagine he picks up in character as the devil. Fucking 30 years later.
He kept it going? Yo, honestly, that would be king shit right there if he did that. Because to keep that roll up, fucking 30-something years later, that's some king shit.
And that brings us to our main topic.
Here we go.
The main thing we'll be talking about on the show today. Because we're talking about old videos, I thought it would be fun to revisit a Halloween safety video from 1985. So let's get into it.
Halloween is really a special time, isn't it? Especially for me. You can see why if you know who I am. Look up a little. That's me, a jack-o'-lantern. At Halloween time every year, I sit up here and watch everybody go by.
So this is a pretty popular video. I feel like if you're a Halloween lover like us, you've probably seen it. But I thought it would be fun to kind of talk about it on the podcast because, again, it's popped up in movies. Like, I remember in The Guest, the movie we've talked about that we were supposed to cover down the line and haven't yet, you see it in the background. I remember seeing it, I think, on a TV show. I've been to Halloween parties where people play the same video, like, on a projector on the wall.
I like that.
Yeah, it's got a lot of Halloween ambiance, and it's it's just perfect to have on in the background.
Oh, 100%.
So this video was produced by two companies. The first being Centron Corporation. They were a production company that specialized in educational videos for schools and corporations. They actually had a fairly long run. They produced videos from the 40s all the ways to the early 90s. So,
wow.
Yeah, they were around a long time.
Longevity.
It was also co-produced by this other company that did the same thing, educational videos, called Cornet Film. Like when you watch the video, you see both production companies' names, in it. This video, this Halloween safety video, is sort of a sequel / update. So it's kind of cool because they produced an updated version. I guess there were some new dangers to Halloween, and they wanted to update this video. You know, we're Haunted Hangover. We do shit ass backwards, so we're covering the sequel before we cover the original one, which I'm sure we'll do down the line. So, Dave, have you actually watched this video up until this point? Are you familiar with it?
So I wasn't familiar with it, but when I started watching it, I was familiar with it because I've seen parts of it. So this is something I've always heard of, or heard about, I should say. And when I was watching it, I was like, oh, I've seen parts of this, especially the beginning, the girl carving the pumpkin with her dad. Forgot what I saw that in, but it's in something. And I remember that, so...
And before we get into the actual video, do you remember watching these safety videos in school? Did they play them in class?
You know, I have a feeling they did, and we really grew up in the in the golden era of going trick-or-treating, how it's portrayed in this video. So I want to say yes, and I want to say like this truly reminded me of trick-or-treating as a kid, like so this was 85, so I was only fucking 2 years old, but still.
This video's, it's kind of before our time, because we're more like late 80s, early 90s people. Like, that's really when we were walking around and trick-or-treating and stuff like that. But I remember my public school not playing this video, but playing safety videos.
Right.
And there's actually a video, it's not Halloween related, that for years, and I'm assuming one of these companies probably produced it. I've been trying to find this fucking video, and I wanted to just talk about it on the show because maybe one of our listeners knows the video and can link me to it. But I remember being maybe 8 or 9, and I went to school in the Bronx in New York. I went to elementary school in the Bronx in New York. And in the video, I'm assuming, thinking about it, it was a fire safety video. And the only thing I remember about the video was you see a woman laying in bed. It's obviously a mannequin, and she's holding a lit cigarette. And the cigarette slowly starts to fall out of her hand. And the entire room just engulfs in flames. It was fucking terrifying, dude. And I'm like 9, and there's a group of us. There are obviously like 20 of us in the room. So it's funny because I remember these like safety videos being kind of creepy.
Oh,
because
they
were
all
warning kids and people, about dangers, whether it's fire, Halloween, and things like that. So that's one video to this day, dude. And I've tried to YouTube it and Google it, and I can't find anything. And that's just one I would love to rewatch it because that specific clip
sounds horrible.
Has stayed in my mind for. It was one of the fucking dude. I was more scared of that like anti-smoking or fire video more than any horror film I had ever seen at that point. And I was in school, so that's the fucking scary part of the whole thing.
Let me just say this. So I can't really remember as far as safety videos go. I know we watched them. I'm not saying this one specifically, but I know they probably had shown these in class. I can tell you this. So I'm going to go a little off topic, but that's anybody listening right now knows that that's my thing. So I can tell you one thing that we had. So in elementary school, we had library class. So I don't know if that makes sense. So like literally there'd be a class where we go to the library and we would just like read books or like there'd be a book that every kid had to read, and then like the library teacher would hold like a discussion. I don't know if you ever read Voyage of the Mimi.
I remember
that was one book that we all read, and we actually got to go to the boat. I don't even know where it is, but we took a field trip to it. But anyway, there is one video, and it's specific to libraries, and it's called Tomes and Talismans. Now, Tomes and Talismans was an educational / sci-fi horror thing that was created to teach the Dewey Decimal System and also act as like this public broadcast sci-fi show. It is amazing. And I'm bringing this up because you were saying that safety video had stuck with you your whole, till this day. This Tomes and Talismans has stuck with me since I've seen it. It is one of the driving forces behind the music I create, because I actually redid their theme years ago. Like I redid it and everything, and I sent it. So this was a show that was on the Mississippi Public Broadcast channel, and I reached out to them on Facebook, and I sent it to them, and the person who responded just wrote "wow," and they're like, we haven't thought about this show in so long. And they're like, I'm going to show this to a couple of people that were on the production team. And they were just completely baffled and like amazed that somebody cared. And I was lucky enough, so I had gone to the library by me to see if I can rent the tapes. So they said it's available, but they're like scattered around the world, like around the US. So one of my friends found somebody that had the tapes on eBay, and the guy was really nice, and he made a copy of all the tapes on a DVD and sent it to us. So I have the whole series, and I only bring this up because it does fit in this safety world, public access, broadcast world. So I just wanted to share that because Tomes and Talismans, we're going to cover that one day. It's amazing.
I've got to watch this. I've never even heard of these. I know that, but I've never heard of these videos. I have to check them out.
First episode is on YouTube, by the way.
I've got to give that a watch.
All right. Sorry for the little detour there.
So getting into this Halloween safety video, it starts off with probably one of my favorite visuals.
It's a great opening
in the entire video. And that's these vintage Ben Cooper floating Halloween mask in like this void. They're obviously either on strings or sticks, and someone's just kind of waving them around.
I also think it's people wearing like black like sweaters and sweatshirts that are also just kind of moving around with them at some point, so you can't see them, but you see their heads move. I think it was part of that, partly too. I also wrote, "What an intro, sold." That's what I wrote in my notes.
And then the title card pops up. I believe it's like orange font. And there's like this disco type beat playing, which I feel like it should have been more spooky, but whatever. It's the 80s, right? So
just going to say that.
And we're introduced to, and this is another thing that's great about this, and I give them a lot of credit because as a kid, nothing grabs you more than cartoons, especially during this time period. But you're introduced to an animated jack-o'-lantern. He has no name. He's just a pumpkin.
I love the cut because it like transitions from the intro to like the kids walking, and then it shows the stoop with the pumpkin, the jack-o'-lantern, and then it's suddenly just an animated jack-o'-lantern.
So this video is kind of broken up into segments focusing on certain aspects of Halloween. And the first one is pumpkin carving.
Getting my inside scooped out tickles me. It'd tickle you too, if you were a pumpkin.
Growing up, I don't think anyone ever warned me of the dangers of carving a jack-o'-lantern.
Nope.
It was never something, I don't remember my mother, my grandmother, no one mentioning that like there was any danger towards carving a jack-o'-lantern. And in this segment, we're introduced to a father and daughter who are preparing a jack-o'-lantern. They're laying out newspaper, and the father reaches into this drawer and pulls out a fucking arsenal. He's got spoons and fucking butcher knives.
He's ready.
And the pumpkin, the animated pumpkin, he's like, warning us, be careful using sharp knives. And there's even this one really funny moment where the jack-o'-lantern basically says getting his insides scooped out tickles if you were a pumpkin. So, like, I guess this is how pumpkins find pleasure.
Sure.
But going back to the sharp knives thing, I always, as far as I remember, used those, like, pumpkin carving kits. Like the ones that had, like, the orange handles and they weren't that sharp. Now, they were shitty. They weren't great. I carved 2 pumpkins last year trying to use one of them, and they were complete garbage. But I don't remember strictly using knives, like butcher knives and, like, knives at home. Did you use, like, knives or those kits?
I can confirm this. I always put newspaper down, so that is definitely a thing. And when I carve a pumpkin, I literally just use a knife and a giant like ladle spoon. So like what he was using in the video. I usually don't buy those little kits because they are fucking shitty. But I mean, usually I'll just use like a fucking regular, like house knife, and then I'll draw on, like, literally what they show in the video is what I do is I draw, but I do mine with pencil. I draw in the face with the pencil, and then I'll just carve it out, and that's it. So it's pretty much verbatim the way they do it in the video.
It is accurate. I'd say, yeah, same thing with me, newspaper. But again, I did use those kits, so maybe I'm the only jabroni
I get it.
using them. I also like how the dad opens up the top of the pumpkin and how grossed out she is by the insides. Like,
yeah,
the little
she's
girl.
like,
She's
just, ew.
And also, like, how excessively dirty her hands are with pumpkin guts.
Okay. I love that they're like, oh, scooping the insides of the pumpkin is the best part. Or I'm like, no. That is the worst part of the fucking carving a pumpkin.
Horrible.
It's the worst part.
It is. It is bad.
It's
it also is the
terrible.
most time-consuming part.
Her hands are just covered in fucking slop. It's hysterical.
It is. It looks like they grabbed the legit, like, guts from the inside
Like, here,
and just smeared her hands all over them. Yeah.
Or just had her put her hands inside the pumpkin and say, here, go ahead, shake them around a little bit and pull them out. That's probably what they had her do.
We need this shot of just your hands disgusting with guts.
I don't know if you paid attention to this, but the paper towels, did you see the paper towels they were using?
There was like a grid on them or something.
It was so strange. Yeah, it was like a grid. I was like, I want these paper towels.
Those didn't ring a bell
weird.
at all. Yeah.
Never. I was like, well, I don't know what those are.
So after that, the jack-o'-lantern, I think he warns us, the viewers, not to put a candle inside of your jack-o'-lantern if it's on a wood porch. And that's basically the end of the pumpkin carving segment.
Yeah.
And I still say, looking at it from a 2021 perspective, it's pretty accurate. I'd say kids should watch this and, carve a jack-o'-lantern safely and have your parents help you.
It's nice to see that it's carried over till now. So I'm glad the tradition, the like stock tradition of carving a pumpkin has still been the same after all these years.
Hello, all my spooky spectators. It's me, Sam, here to bring you another Cocktail Cauldron Minute. This week we went live to bring you the Going Green Tea in honor of both 420 and Earth Day because we love Mother Nature and all she provides for us. The Going Green Tea is made light and earthy with vodka, green tea, and a homemade honey mint syrup. But to really get in the spirit, we added CBD oil to bring you back down to earth. Guys, it was unreal. I am not joking. If you want specifics on how to make it, be sure to head over to our Instagram at Haunted Hangover for a brief recap. And stay tuned for our next Cocktail Cauldron Live, where we'll be celebrating Cinco de Mayo with another crafted cocktail and always our own spooky twist. So don't miss out. Follow us over on Instagram. It's gonna be twisted. I'll see you there.
So next up, we go into some Halloween costume safety. Now, this is probably the most exaggerated portion of this video to me. Like,
It's silly.
It's a little silly. It's a little exaggerated. So we cut to this shot of a little boy in his living room dressed up as a robot. Now, this is a homemade robot costume.
I love them. I always love the old school robots, the homemade old school robot costumes. These are really cool.
It's like a box with aluminum foil and
yeah, it's awesome.
Arms and antennas and all this shit. And he's walking around bumping into everything. He hits a wall, he hits a plant, he's touching the glass, I guess windows. He doesn't know where the fuck he is. And he eventually crashes into his sister, I'm assuming. I think her name was Jessica, if I remember correctly.
Yep, it is.
Now, I do want to point out that Jessica is wearing a This Island Earth mutant mask, and that's like one of my favorite characters. I've always loved how that character looked. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just Google This Island Earth, and I just got a kick out of the fact that she was wearing it, to the point that when she took it off and didn't want to wear it anymore, and we'll get to that later, I was like, damn, girl, that's a fucking sick mask. Keep that shit on.
Ruining it.
They start talking about the dangers of not being able to see through your mask. And I love how there's like this POV shot of what this boy is seeing. And it's like two little holes. It's almost like the original Halloween.
Horrible. Yeah. It's fucking horrible.
It's like these two tiny, like dime-sized holes. And he's looking through them. And he can't see jack shit. And the pumpkin's narrating it, saying like, oh, that's not good. We need to do something about that. And it is funny because I remember, even to this day, wearing rubber mask, like just regular rubber Halloween mask, and not being able to see jack shit. Like, I have a mask now in my living room that I've had for a few years. I believe it's like one of those, it's Trick or Treat Studios. And the mask, I've worn it on Halloween a couple of times. There's no eye holes on it. I'm always like, why the fuck? Dude, what is the point of this? And even in the past, I remember
it's probably just for prop.
Yeah,
it's probably just for display.
It's probably for display, but technically it's a Halloween mask. You're supposed to be able to wear it. And I always, like, even as a kid, I remember in the previous episode I talked about a jack-o'-lantern costume, like a scarecrow jack-o'-lantern costume on our costume memories episode. I remember that mask not being able to see jack shit in it either. So that's a thing. That's a real safety hazard that I totally agree with is something you should worry about, or these companies should worry about.
I have written down in my notes, I wrote, those eye slits are a crime. Where are these kids' parents? That's what I have written down.
Those kids
they're not
were
in the video
too,
for like the first 5 minutes.
Yeah. And
it's hysterical.
And when the girl is wearing the Ben Cooper mask, the This Island Earth mutant mask, even that mask, which makes no sense, are like dime-sized, because usually those plastic masks, you could see through them easily.
Yeah, hers were like the same deal as the robot mask, and I'm like, what? Like, what the hell? What kind of sham is this?
All these kids are fucking blind, basically, when they wear their Halloween costumes.
I like how they go into, like, so they finally move to the little girl, Jessica, and they're like, oh, because of what we just said with her bad eye slits in the mask, so they're like, well, you could paint on her face. And they're like, a monster needs an ugly face. And I'm like, oh, man. So the makeup they put on her is fucking horrible.
She should have just stayed wearing the fucking mask.
This is what I wrote in my notes. That mask was worth the risk wearing, even if it was a hazard.
It is pretty fucking terrible makeup.
All
I don't even know what she was
like
supposed to be.
a hot dog or something. It's like, yeah, it's like brown, like brown and black and like red. Like, it was just all, she looked like she had mud on her face or something. It looks stupid.
Yeah, I didn't get what they were going for there at all, so. I also like how we cut back to the little boy's robot costume, and for some fucking reason, he can't bend his knees. When he was making this costume, he fucking shoved his legs into, I'm guessing, like tubing that you can't bend, and he's walking around all fucked up, and the pumpkin's like, that's a safety hazard as well. You should always be able to bend your knees when you're wearing your costume.
Come on, boy.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, you really thought you'd walk around the entire day with fucking walking around with no knees, with no access to bending your knees? Like, This is definitely the most fucking ridiculous segment in this entire video. But it is great. The costumes are both fucking great. Like, you watch this and you're just like, man, I remember getting ready.
I loved it.
Before going out trick-or-treating and putting on your costume. But again, I don't think I ever remember my mom being like, hey, make sure you can see through your mask. Like,
no, none of this was a thing for me either. So
I also like that there's one last shot of the little girl Jessica looking out the window and just growling. Shit is priceless.
Of course, the reason you get all dressed up at Halloween is so you can have fun going trick-or-treating.
Next up is trick-or-treat safety. Now, some of these rules are pretty basic. Be careful crossing the street. Take off your mask when crossing. Always look both ways. Typical shit. There is this one shot I love, and the kids are going around trick-or-treating, and it's an overhead shot, and you've got the group, they're kind of tight together, and the parents are behind them. And this just feels like Halloween when you were a kid, like when you're with your friends or your family and you're just going trick-or-treat. Like, that one shot is just, again, 100% pure Halloween ambiance. There's also this really weird segment where I think the pumpkin says, some people like to take pictures of your Halloween costumes. And I was like,
I don't know about that.
Yeah, that was fucking weird. Like, the group of kids go up to this, like, I guess, and I believe it's the pumpkin's porch. It's supposed to be where the pumpkin's hanging out because you see the live action version of him sitting in the corner. But this random guy pulls out his Polaroid camera, takes a picture of the kids, and then hands it to them. I guess this was like a way for them to kind of segue into the reflectors on their costumes.
Yeah, you know, as I think about it, I mean, and especially during that time period, I mean, I guess it's not that weird to do something like that, especially if you're just giving the photo back to the kids or the family, you know, the kids' parents and whatnot. Plus, the parents are fucking there anyway. I don't know. It's definitely a little strange, though.
It was 100% a, like, just a way to transition into talking about reflectors and how kids should have them on their costumes and on their trick-or-treat bags because cars can see them. And
it's not a bad idea. I mean, we never did it, but it's not a bad idea.
I never wore reflectors either. The only time I ever had reflectors was when I rode a bike, and that was like once in a blue. And they were on my bike. I wasn't wearing them.
Yeah.
So next up was what I called in my notes the Halloween vandalism Dave segment, because when I watched this, all I thought about was you and how much you loved egging people when you were a kid.
So I'll say this: they open up with like someone, like a kid holding a spray paint can, and then all the kid did was spray paint a line on someone's bike seat, and I'm like, this is not what anyone would do. And then there was like very faint spray paint on a brick wall, and it was like I guess it's supposed to be like someone of importance with a suit on. Like, oh, look at what happened here. It's so silly.
The best part of this are those two people's reactions. The little boy that you just pointed out with the spray painted bike seat.
Why?
He's like looking around and looks super disappointed. And then again, going back to the guy in the suit and the brick wall, I assume it's like a dad and his kid, and they're just upset.
It's like someone in authority.
He's touching the egg, and he's like rubbing it in his fingers, shaking his head like an egg. Like he's just fucking. I don't know if he's like disapproving it because the little boy's the one that did it, or he's investigating to see what it was.
It's funny.
It is funny that they had to add this into the video because it's technically not, it's not really safety. It's more so just something you shouldn't do. I guess they don't think you should be doing that.
Common sense.
We also cut to this weird portion where a vandal's about to squish and smash the talking pumpkin, and he's like stressed out. He's like, no, please don't squash me. And there's like kids off screen yelling, no, get away. And he keeps like threatening him with his foot.
Yep.
And the kid's wearing like a hoodie, and he's like, I guess that's what like a hoodlum looks like in this video. That's what they thought.
True hoodlum.
Now, Dave, since you were into, and we've talked about this on several episodes in the past, would this have turned you off from vandalizing and throwing eggs?
No.
Not
at all.
You 100% would have continued.
Listen, doing those types of things comes with the territory of Halloween. And that's all I'm going to leave it at. So, is it wrong? Of course it's wrong. But is it like Halloween? Absolutely it's Halloween. So, I'm not saying you got to you have to take this out of Halloween. I think it should always be there.
I agree. It's 100% a part of Halloween.
You see, some people think it's fun to play tricks with your treats. Watch out for candy wrappers that have been torn or punctured. That might be a sign of tampering. There might be things in the candy. So break open candy bars before you eat them.
We also have a few more quick rules or safety guidelines. There's one that says don't go trick-or-treating alone and never go into someone's house. There's like this little reenactment of the group of kids we've been following, and this woman gives them candy, and she's like, want to come inside? I've got more treats. Super creepy.
In front of the parents. Like, why would you... What parent's going to be like, yeah, guys, go ahead. Go into the house. We'll wait out here.
Go right in. Don't worry about it. That person's not a fucking creeper. It is interesting how the parents are with them during all of this. So it's like all these safety rules make sense, but at the same time, the parents are there. They should be watching their goddamn kids. So I don't know. There's
one part where they're like, don't go trick-or-treating to any houses that have their lights off. If they have their lights off, they probably don't want to be bothered. So, who's going to go trick-or-treat at the house?
That's another thing I don't remember from, like, back in the day. I don't remember being told not... I also lived in the city, technically, and it was apartment buildings and stuff, but I don't remember people saying, like, don't knock on people's doors if their lights were off. Like, I don't remember hearing that at all.
If you're going to tempt me with, like, a really decrepit-looking house with a light off, listen, I'm going to go up to the house. That's for sure. But, if you're in, like, regular suburbia and the lights are off, and there's no car in the driveway, or there's just some crap, like, no, of course we're not going to go trick-or-treat at that house.
Yeah. It's the house that you shouldn't be knocking on the door. Some people just leave signs. They're just like, don't knock, no candy or something like that, so.
Right. I mean, last year I left a plate of candy out. Not all of it went, but some of it went.
Yeah. So there are ways to avoid people if that's your thing. They also say always use a flashlight, which is something I never did. I never used the flashlight either.
I never use a flashlight, but I do remember seeing people with flashlights, so that's not too far, and I do remember seeing that.
And the final segment of this Halloween safety video is the Check Your Candy segment, which I think is still a very important thing kids should do today. You never know what kind of shit is in your candy. And
it's true, but... I never checked my candy, I'll be very honest with you.
I think we've talked about it in the past. I did.
My mom never did either. Yeah, we didn't check anything.
So some of the rules in this breakdown are always check your candy, obviously. Break open candy bars before eating them. I thought the rules were always kind of like, if it's wrapped, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Cut open fruit before you eat them. Who the fuck hands out fruit on Halloween? Again, I think it's a joke because I think I in the last episode mentioned fruit and you were like, who the fuck hands out fruit? And I'm like, I think that was a thing, not anymore, but like apples.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt it.
And then also don't eat random pills and drugs because the little girl picks up an orange pill. And don't eat it. People are fucking handing out Tylenol and all kinds of other shit, I guess, in trick-or-treat bags. Which, honestly, that seems realistic. I believe maybe in the 80s and early 90s, there were probably some shitty assholes who were handing out, like, fucking Benadryl and shit to kids to fucking knock them out just to be an asshole.
That's what I'm saying. I wrote down, I'm curious to know the households who want to poison or harm random kids. Just for the hell of it. Like, why? Why?
Some sick fucks, dude. That's why. There's just... I guess that's what this video's trying to say. There's some sick people out. That's what the pumpkin says. There are some people out there that want to ruin the holiday. And I guess these people that want to drug children, those are them. That's the people that want to fuck everything up. Ruin it for everyone.
Before this candy segment, there was a shot that all the kids are coming up from the sidewalk. And it's like... it's like an over the head shot, but then it comes down, it pans down as they're coming towards you, and I really liked it because it was like the most true depiction of trick or treating, like with your friends on a Halloween night. I really liked that shot. It was that, and I even wrote it down, the timestamp 11:40. So if you all watch this, look for the shot at 11:40. I loved it.
There's also this one shot of the girl holding up a moldy chocolate bar. I was like, all right, like I guess people are handing out old ass candy. Fucking definitely don't want to eat that. Also, this is kind of fucked up, but that little girl's candy haul sucked.
Horrible.
They couldn't do a better job with the fucking, to put more candy, just even as a prop, just put more I guess they had to use royalty free, no label.
Probably.
They couldn't use Hershey
well, you know
Kisses
what
or
though?
Reese's.
No, because I saw Snickers, but you know what? The Snickers wrappers were turned upside down. So maybe they were trying to avoid that, but I did see Snickers in there, so at least she got some Snickers.
She got something good in there, along with her fucking drugs.
There was one kid who got it was earlier on in the segment. It was before the spray paint thing. One of the kids had an amazing jack-o'-lantern pail, and you see it as like right before they cut to the spray paint segment, and I was like, yo, that's some king shit.
This is where the safety video starts to wind down, and the pumpkin, the animated talking pumpkins, he says this one really, really good line, and I'm going to read it here. He says, Halloween can be a scary time, not because witches or ghosts that we know aren't real, but because of real things that can spoil our fun. So I do like how he's not like there's assholes out there that fuck up Halloween. He says it in a way where kids could understand.
Absolutely.
And that's I do appreciate how the video breaks things down so that a 10-year-old understands.
Yeah, for sure.
The pumpkin eventually breaks down the rules again, kind of cross dissolves them really quick. A quick recap of all the rules that we just watched. And I love this last shot of the pumpkin sitting on the side and a real ghost shows up.
I love that.
Yeah, he raises the lid of the jack-o'-lantern and then blows out the candle. And that's kind of how it ends. It just cuts to Halloween safety. And I think the specific line with the whole ghost and jack-o'-lantern thing is if you follow these rules, you won't have to worry about scary, real things happening on Halloween. And that's when the ghost pops up. So it's just a fun way to end this video. Again, it almost feels like this. I wonder if this ever aired on TV because it seems like it's tailor-made for that. It must have.
It may have.
So Dave, what are your thoughts on this video as a whole? What are your thoughts on just its existence and watching it back? And because I've seen it several times, you had never actually watched it in full. So I just want to know what you thought of it.
Again, I was aware of this video once I started watching it. I was like, okay, I've seen parts of this before. I'm happy to have it brought to my attention. I think this is something that should be put into your Halloween queue. Whatever you watch, whatever you do to get yourself into the Halloween world, the spirit, I think this is definitely something you should really add to it. I mean, again, you said you've seen this playing at Halloween parties. You've seen it, I think people probably have put them on in pre-shows at strings and stuff. It's one of those perfect little, 15 minutes, 14 minutes. It's something that's just a quick bumper to watch, and it's great. And, I had written down something in my notes, and I'm going to close off this is my signing off with this video. Although all of these rules are legit, I never practiced any of them. But I am grateful to be able to experience Halloweens like the ones portrayed in this safety video because, I mean, this is really the creme de la creme of Halloween time, the way it's shown in this video.
Yeah, I agree. It's watching it now in 2021, everyone knows Halloween safety rules. In 1985, there was no internet. It was a different time. So this video makes sense. It makes sense that they showed this to kids. Now, watching it today, we kind of watch it just with nostalgic goggles. It's not really make sure we follow these rules. We're like, wow, those costumes are sick. This video has a lot of atmosphere. This,
Right, 'cause
like,
we miss
again,
it.
like you said, it's perfect for a Halloween party. It's something that I wish they would honestly like restore it, because again, the videos on YouTube are kind of shitty. Like maybe make it in high def or fix it up or something, because this would be great in a fucking compilation, like a Halloween compilation with some other stuff. I believe a lot of these videos are like public domain now because it's so old, and the companies don't exist anymore that produced them. But yeah, definitely, if you've never seen this, and more than likely if you're listening to us, you probably have. Definitely go on right now. Go on YouTube, type in Halloween safety video 1985, and give it a watch. You won't regret it. It's going to make you, right now it's April, it's going to make you want it to be October. Like, it's just going to give you all the Halloween feels. So definitely go give it a watch. Check it out. It's awesome.
If you can do all that, then you won't have to worry about scary, real things happening on Halloween, right?
Right.
So that was the Halloween safety video from 1985. Be sure to subscribe. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Haunted Hangover.
And if you can rate and review us, that'd be greatly appreciated.
And remember, the best cure for a hangover is
More booze.
later, guys.